All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm your host, Pinky Shah, here to kick off the event alongside with my co-host, Sabina. We have an interactive question answer session planned for later, so do not hesitate to raise your hand or type your questions in the chat, and we'll ask them on your behalf. Just a quick reminder that tonight's event will be recorded. We are thrilled to have Kirsten Miller with us today. She's the best-selling author of books like The Change, the Kiki Strike series, and now the powerful and timely Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books. The story is about standing up to censorship, speaking out, and the power of community. Please join me in welcoming Kirsten. Thank you so much, Kirsten, for joining us. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we dive into discussing your book, do you mind just sharing a little bit of your journey, how you came to become an author and just up to, yeah.
Well, I've been writing for a very long time. I got my start, so I got my start writing in the young adult book world. My first books were actually what's called middle grade books, which is, I guess, between 8 and 12. And I loved doing that. And that was sort of, that experience is one of the things that led to Lula Dean's Little Library, because those of us who had been working in the young adult world saw book banning coming about 20 miles away, because we were the first people who got hit. And not my books personally, although I don't know for sure, but I had good friends whose books were pulled off the shelves for reasons that I didn't understand at the time, and I still don't understand now. And so when it came time to actually, the idea for Lula Dean was one that my editor proposed to me. She said she was actually down in Texas for the book festival down there. And Texas has been having some issues with book banning, as has every state in the United States. And the people of Austin were fighting back, and they had signs in their front yard that said, "Come and get it," meaning we have all the banned books and we're happy to loan them to you if you'd like to, to stop by and get one. And she called me up and she said, how would you feel about writing a book about a little free library of banned books? And having come from that young adult book world where I had seen so many wonderful, wonderful books, important books about really sensitive and yet, essential issues get pulled off the shelves, I thought, yeah, I mean, this is something that I have to do. So that was that was how I got started, and that's how it ended up leading 20 years later to me writing a book about banned books.
That was actually my question. So you did clarify that how the idea of writing this book came about. But then, how did you end up selecting? Because there are a list of banned book on, sadly, it's pretty long.
Yeah.
How did you select which books you wanted to include in your story?
Well, there were a number of books that I
Oh.
knew because I had, a great deal of experience in the young adult book world, and I know that's where the book banners often go first. So there was a long list of books from that world that I knew I wanted to write about. Most notably, the one that was sort of nearest and dearest to my heart was Laurie Hall Sanderson's book Speak, which is about rape, which has been pulled from library shelves because it's has been deemed pornographic, which breaks my heart, because this is a book that I think a lot of young women and girls need to find. So that was one of them. But also, I mean, there's a whole long list of, so from The Lord of the Flies, which was one of my favorite books growing up, to Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, to, I mean, any number of, so I had a whole list of young adult books that I knew I wanted to talk about, and a couple of other books that I, was personally very, that had moved me personally, like Mouse, that I knew I wanted to discuss. And and then I sort of expanded my, I wanted to make sure that I addressed a number of the books that are, often banned these days. And so I just I started from there, and I worked outwards, and incorporated all of my favorite books and a lot of the books that are being, are common on the banned books list now. And yeah, and I matched them with the people I thought needed to find them.
And any character in the book that based were in somebody you know or you admire?
Um, so the town that Luladine is set in is very much like the town where I grew up. It's not the town that I grew up, and I want to make that really clear, but it does have certain similarities, and there were a lot of people that I wanted to pay homage to. So there are some people in the book that are there because I had a great deal of respect or admiration for them. For example, the librarian, who gives Beverly Underwood the book about, her history, is based on the librarian that I knew growing up in my hometown. And I didn't actually know that she was still alive. But apparently she has a copy of this book, and she has uh, she appreciates the tribute. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I mean there are all sorts of people mixed in, but I don't think there was anybody really, and none of the characters were really, sort of meant to call out a particular person. But they're all the kind of characters I knew growing up.
Uh, would you, if you get a chance to have your own little free library, which of banned book or just books, which books would you put in?
Well, I think that's how the whole idea started was, my editor came to me with this idea, and I was actually in the middle of working on something else at that point. So, I she, sort of came to me with this idea of a little library filled with banned books, and I could not stop thinking about what books I would put in the library, and who I would want to find them. So the banned books that are in Lula's library are the banned books that I would choose.
Oh,
And that was the fun of choosing that sort of selection was what really pulled me into the project in the first place.
and you said a little bit about that you personally with your books did not experience any, censorship of banned book, but you're somebody who you knew as a friend. Any other personal experience that you have witnessed or gone through as far as the censorship or challenges go?
Well, I've seen a lot of it. So so Luladine was published in June of last year, and I've spent the last year going around the country talking to people. And I knew it was a problem all across America, but I had no idea the extent to which it is a problem. Um, I have heard from every state in this country, and they all have problems. It's, from Connecticut, where you guys are, to Massachusetts, to Minnesota, to everywhere, to Mississippi. There's not a single state in the country that hasn't been affected in some way. And so that was kind of a shock to me. I knew it was a problem, but I had no idea just how pervasive the problem actually was. So yeah, I mean, that's and not just that, but also, you know, when I went into this, I was obviously thinking about formal challenges to books. And what I've heard from librarians and also booksellers is that often the biggest problem is when people don't say anything at all. And they just go into the library and they steal books, or they put them in sections where they're not supposed to be and hide them. And apparently this happens in bookstores as well. People go into a bookstore and they see a book that they don't want anybody else reading, so they will take it, or they will hide it, or they will do something else with it.
Mm.
So, it's a problem that is much bigger than I think anybody really realizes. And I think that's I can't even, it's hard for me to fathom on a personal level the idea that there are people who think that they deserve the authority to decide what the rest of us get to read. I mean, I can't even like the idea of waking up in the morning and thinking, oh, I am so righteous or so intelligent or so whatever that I should go out and decide what everybody in Brooklyn gets to read. I mean, it's just the idea is insane. And yet there are people out there who apparently feel that way.
Oh, uh, according to you, and because now you have a bigger exposure than we do because you've been doing tour, why do you think this problem is now getting bigger and bigger and more prominent than ever before?
I think there are a number of reasons that this has become such a huge issue. And one of them is that the rest of us thought it wasn't. So we stopped paying attention. We thought that the problem had been solved, that it was not coming back, that we were never going to have to deal with this sort of stuff again in America. And so we stopped paying attention. We stopped going to the school board meetings. We stopped going to the town halls. We stopped going to, all of the different, meetings on a local level where these things are decided. And, and that led a lot of people who, were really, big on the book bans, the opportunity to come in and sort of force their views and their way of thinking on the rest of us because we weren't there to stop them. So I think that's been the biggest problem. And I think it's also just sort of, it's given a lot of people. So I think there are a lot of different types of people who do this. Like as I wrote in the author's note that as I was writing, there was a big study that had come out of Florida where there had been hundreds and hundreds of book challenges in Central Florida. And a couple of investigative reporters out of, I think, Tampa had looked into it. And they discovered that out of all of these hundreds of book challenges, there were two people behind it. So I think that there are people out there who are very much like Lula Dean, who see sort of book banning as their chance to get the attention that they always craved, that they couldn't get any other way. And then I think there's a much smaller but a much more dangerous group of people who are really keen on controlling what the rest of us get to know and as a result get to think. So they've seen the opportunity and they've grabbed it and they've run with it. And so I think there are a number of factors, but those two are probably the biggest ones. You've got bad actors who see the opportunity to get the kind of attention or do the kind of things that they always wanted to do, while the rest of us just weren't paying attention. But, on the plus side of, a little ray of sunshine, I suppose, I really do think people are there now. People have gotten the memo. And like you were saying, you had a lot of people who came out to support you guys. I think, we know what we're up against now and we're willing to fight. And that, you know, that's a good thing.
No, it's
And
a good fight to fight, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's we always knew because supporters are always tell us how much they appreciate us. And we know that's always a larger number. But as also we say, squeaky wheel always gets attention. Even
yes.
the people who are against us are in a very, very low numbers, but they are loudest. Um,
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, we need lots of squeaky wheels on our side as well. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
We need the people who are willing. We need the loud, and I say this in the most positive sense possible. We need the loud mouths to stand up for what they believe is right on our side too. And I agree that that's been an issue. Like I think a lot of us have been too polite. And we need to go head to head.
Agree, because we believe that it's not my business what other people are reading, and we kind of keep to our lane, and that's when we get hurt because people are coming into our.
I mean, can you imagine? Here's a sort of an analogy that I've been sort of thinking about a lot. Just think about the grocery store. I have certain beliefs about what I eat. I don't like, don't eat a lot of meat. I don't eat certain kinds of foods. Imagine I went and tried to impose my beliefs on other people. And as they're coming to the store, I told them what they were able to buy or not buy, or I just went into the store and started yanking the Doritos off the shelves. I mean, it's when you think about it that way, it puts things in a completely different perspective. It's like, of course you shouldn't have any say over what somebody else eats. So why should you have any say over what somebody else reads?
Yeah, yeah. No, in a way, it's very simple if they understand, but that's where we are having hard time. Just I don't know, but this is, as we said, this is a fight we are willing to fight, and
Good.
uh,
And good too. Like, I mean, everybody, this is one of the things that I keep saying is, um, give your, if you can, give your librarians, any backup they ask for, because, these are people who you guys got into the business because you wanted to help people and to sort of point them in the direction of the information and the things and the whatever that they need. And, nobody who's a librarian now signed up to be on the front lines of a culture war. And yet you guys you're holding down the fort. And I have incredible respect for that. But also I think, you need to start making sure we have your backs too.
no, and we are grateful for a great community and our community. We know, and they always show that how much they support us, and uh, we are very appreciative of that and thankful for that. Did you get any negative response when your book got published?
Well, I mean, you're all free to go on Goodreads and read. Like, it's funny because I mean, most of the reviews are it's either like 5 stars or 1 star, which is, I think I kind of see that as a great sign. I mean, I think that means that you're poking the right bear, right? You're getting people to, and I wish that, I wish the 1 star people would, I hope they read the whole book. If they didn't like it, that's fine. That's their choice. I just hope that they read it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have not personally heard a lot of negative feedback. I've seen it, and I knew that was going to happen. I've actually been surprised by just uh how open most people seem to be toward, kind of having this discussion and thinking about all of the things that I sort of brought up in the book. And I'm really glad about that. And one of the things that's made me really happy, is, all of the discussions that I've had with people from the South, which is where I'm from, about a lot of the issues that I discussed in the book that are a bit painful for us. And the people I've talked to are very open to having that discussion and very open to sort of looking at things in a different way. And so that's been really gratifying.
Did you find to write any little bit difficulty in any particular character? And do you have a favorite and a least favorite character?
So I started when my editor called me with the idea, I was in the middle of something else and I was really, really keen on finishing that other project. And but I was the idea was so interesting to me and I couldn't put it down. And so I thought, I had a weekend and I said, okay, I'm going to take this weekend and see if I can write a chapter and make it work. And so I sat down, and the first chapter I wrote was Wilma's chapter, which is the erotic cake chapter, the 85-year-old woman who finds the erotic cake cookbook. And I just had so much fun writing that I was like, oh, I have to keep on doing this. So I wrote 4 chapters in that one weekend. I think the first chapters came later, but I wrote later, but I think it was like the second, third, fourth, and fifth chapter I wrote that weekend. And I just loved all of these characters so much and wanted to get to know them and wanted to spend time with them. Um, but I mean, so I love Wilma, but the two that I had the most fun writing were Mitch and Jeb, the two brothers.
Yep.
Because I loved having that kind of dialogue between two guys from different ends of the political spectrum. One's a bit of a moron, the other one's a good guy. But they're writing in that sort of accent. They both sound a lot like my brother-in-law, who's also from South Georgia. So it was really, really fun writing those two characters. I loved it. I could write a whole book with just Mitch and Jeb.
You can pull that string a little.
Yes.
But also, many characters, your book is kind of, the bow wrapped properly at the end. The characters undergo
Oh,
some
yes, yes, yes.
yeah, in beliefs. And how realistic was it? And why did you choose?
Well,
Because
it's not. So this is something people say to me, "Oh, it's not very realistic." And I'm like, "Oh, what? A book about a little town in Georgia where everybody finds the book that they need is unrealistic?" No, of course it's I would say it's all of my books are okay, they're very much in the Southern literary tradition, which is like everything's a little bit fantastical, everything's a little bit exaggerated, everything's a little bit technicolor, and I like to add a little sprinkle of magic to all of it. So yeah, I mean it's not, completely realistic, but the one thing that I really wanted to do, and I needed it so much while I was writing this book, and I feel like I need it even more now is I needed a ray of sunshine. I needed a little bit of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel, something that, that might be the best case scenario, but something that I thought we could all work towards. And so yeah, I mean it's not a spoiler if anybody hasn't finished the book or read it. It's, there's a happy ending because I think we need to see that a happy ending is possible.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a little outlandish, even if it's a little bit magical, even if it's a little bit out there, the idea that we could potentially as a country come together again is an idea that I think we all need to start entertaining, and we all need to start sort of working towards that goal because it's not going to happen otherwise. And her reviews, I think it's up on Goodreads. I'm not sure if that's where I read it, but I know it's up there as well. But she said, oh, yeah, it is, because she said that when she first read the book, she gave it a 2 on Goodreads.
okay.
And then she talked to people about it. And she came back and she gave it a 5 because she said that actually having read it and then discussed it with other people, it had opened her eyes to a number of issues. So I don't know if that's happened, with more than one person, but I feel like,
It's possible.
I got her. Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, and so I saw that, I think I saw the review on Instagram, and then she had posted it on Goodreads as well. And I sort of sent her a note on Instagram saying that I was glad that she had found something in it, after all. So I don't know. I mean, listen, this is, I feel like, so when you go online these days and you hear people talking about all the stuff that's going on in our country, one of the responses that you hear all the time is, "Oh, it's never going to work. They're never going to change. It's never going to, like, nothing's ever going to be any different." And every time I hear that, it makes me so unbelievably angry because every time somebody says that, it makes change just a little bit harder. It gives people an excuse to not to continue, you know, doing the wrong thing or, and I think that it would benefit us all if we opened our minds to the opportunity that, to the idea that maybe, you know, we could make a difference. Maybe things
I-
can change. Maybe we can fix the country. Maybe we can fix the world. I think if we don't believe it, if we just go into everything with this kind of negative, with these negative expectations, that's exactly what we're going to get. So,
And certain subjects, and now, like I said, it's people are talking about it, and that's when you find that, oh, you also think the same way I think, and that's when you feel like, oh, I have a support. Otherwise, so
yeah.
and it's only my thing, opinion is when you feel like I'm one person, if I'm the
Yep.
only one who thinks this way, how am I going to change the world? But if you share with somebody, you might find that there are other people who
Oh,
also
yeah.
have a same belief, who thinks like you, and that's when you strength in numbers. And
Well,
then
where book banning is concerned, people who are against book banning are the overwhelming majority of this country. Like overwhelming. It's like it's over 2/3. Like this isn't even like a liberal versus conservative issue. There are lots of people who consider themselves diehard conservatives who are adamantly against book banning. So it's like this is, I mean, and this is, I think something anybody who is against book banning, as I assume everybody on this call is, like, not only do we have each other, we have 2/3 of the country with us.
Right, right.
If we can't fight, this battle, then
Who can?
how we can. I mean, how many more people do we need? We literally have 2/3 of the country. So let's get it done.
no, no, definitely, definitely, and we have absolutely witnessed the community coming together, and the power that you get from each other, and the strength you get from each other. Um, uh, that was something we witnessed just 2 days ago, and I'm so grateful to be part of that community. So, um, I wanted to ask you, like, I know I kind of read it in your thing that you are working, your next book is coming October 2025 or
Yes.
August, October 25.
October, yeah.
Is it totally different than what you have written in
Well,
past?
I so my first adult book was called The Change, and it was
Mm.
about three women who reach a certain point in their lives, which is, whatever, perimenopause, my age, whatever you want to call it, and they discover that they've developed sort of special powers, and they discover the body of a young girl that's been left on the side of the road, and they don't accept the official version of her death, and they go out and hunt down the people behind her murder. Um, and it's sort of a thriller, or it sounds like one. Oh, and it's very sort of a witchy thriller. But what it really was it was an exploration of a lot of subjects, as in Lula Dean, that I really cared about, like violence against women and sexism and things like that. It is a real, if you liked Lula Dean, you'll like The Change. So The Women of Wild Hill, which is coming out in October, is in that same world. And so it is quite witchy, but in a way that I don't think people keep. When I say witchy, people always expect spells and things of that sort, and that's not what it is at all. So this book is a little bit more about the environment. It's about a a family of women who have, we can say, like a special relationship with nature. And it is it's really fun. All of my books are hopefully very funny. But really delve into some deep and serious issues at the same time. So
Right.
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, but before I have a couple more questions before I actually open it up to the other people who can ask you. Um, we do judge the book by the cover and the title. This title was your first choice, or did you have any other going around, or?
no, so so that was the working title. And it was just sort of, I didn't know what that was the working title. And when I sent it into my publisher, um, we were gonna come up with a title, and they started sharing it around. My editor started sharing it around, and all the people there were like, no, we really like this title. So it ended up sticking, even though it wasn't what we had intended to use. And I'm kind of fond of it. And the cover, I'm very proud to say, is my design.
Oh,
So
wow.
Oh, it's great.
I know, which never happens.
Uh,
I really, I've that combination of the blue and the flame and everything. It's just what I had always. I think the flame is going to be kind of my signature going forward.
Mm. With your
So,
cover design.
well, I love this the symbolism of fire. The whole burn it down. Sort of side of things, but also illumination and truth and purity and change and all of these things. It just sort of that flame speaks to all of the kind of ideas that I'm trying to work into my books.
Yeah, no, we can't wait for your next book. Have you lately read anything that kind of left an impression on you?
Yeah, so I love being surprised. And I not that long ago, I got a note from my publisher, and they said there's an Australian author who we represent in the who's published through us in the United States. She's coming to New York, and she wants to have an event. And would you be interested in interviewing her? And I was like, okay. And they sent me the book, and it was, I knew it was about an elderly gentleman, very elderly. And I was like, okay, I got to read this. And I really I went into it thinking this was going to be homework. Like, I really don't want to read a book about an older guy in a nursing home. That sounds
Is it a
depressing.
Frederick Fife one?
Yes.
Ah, I'm gonna interview her too,
Yeah.
hopefully
And
on
I,
tour.
it was so life affirming and sweet and wonderful, and just like I felt like my soul had been cleansed by
Oh,
the end of it. And so I do recommend that. I think right now, when the world is dark, like I do think that we need books like that. And it's really about the power of kindness, as you know. And it is a lovely book. Anna Johnson is the author.
yes,
I-
yes, yes, yes. I've
yeah, I
interviewed her.
recommend it to everyone.
So you said the event you interviewing her is happening in New York or already had happened?
No, it happened a while back,
A
but
while back.
it's always nice when you meet people who are exactly how you hope they would be, and she's just as lovely in person as you sort of would gather from her writing that she might be. So
Oh,
she's
oh,
great. I highly recommend the book. If you need a little soul cleanse, it's a great one to pick up.
yeah, yeah. Okay, great. No, I've been talking to her and we are pretty close to narrowing a date in October
Oh,
uh,
good.
for our Zoom interview because
Oh,
she's
yeah,
in
no, she's great.
Melbourne,
See,
Australia.
no, but this is the beauty of Zoom, right? You
Yes,
talk to
yes.
people from all over. Yes.
Yes, yes, and because of you guys, it's so we can make this happen because as an author, you have to agree to do this for us, and we have been lucky so far. This is our fourth year,
No,
and
it is the best. This is the best development in the 20 years that I've been writing, because I can actually meet the people that I'm writing for.
One thing that came good out of COVID is Zoom.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. If the only thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely, and I'm very glad that we were able to continue to do so, because we thought that after COVID, when you because back then I thought authors were doing it because you guys were not able to do the book tours or anything, but we're so lucky that you know, you still are willing to do it. And
It's a joy. It's the best
yeah.
part of the job.
Yeah, our readers can actually, this is the best, and from the town like us, where, you know, authors usually don't go on book tours. So this
Right.
absolutely gives our readers the opportunity to connect with, you know, on one-on-one with writers. So on that note, actually, I would like to open the floor to people, and if they have a question. So guys, if you want to raise your hand, and okay, there you go, Sally. Okay, if you want to unmute yourself and talk, please go ahead. You gotta unmute first.
I'm Sally Peters, a resident of Suffield, and I just thought your book was just so much fun and so easy to read. I do think that the ending was a little hallmarky, but I get it. You know what I mean? But let me just tell you what happened last night in our town. We had uh, our library uh, commission was talking to was engaged were engaged with people from our town about the recent LGBTQ, etc. ban of books at the library for children.
Mhm.
We had the most erudite, wonderful, informed people talk about why this is so important.
Oh,
We had people who were parents of trans kids, we had trans kids, we had people from every kind of background. Grandmothers, grandfathers who bring their children to the library could not say enough about our wonderful library staff and how they choose the books we are reading these days. And let me tell you one other thing is that when I go to the library and I see Pinky or I see Sabine and I say, oh, we got to get this book, they get it. They get the book. And it's wonderful. I may be the only one in the library who reads it, but you know what? They're listening. And that's the most important thing. And I just think I love my librarians.
yeah.
And you
No.
know what? I loved your book. I loved it.
Oh, that's great. Listen, this is, I'm a huge fan of libraries myself.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's kind of amazing that they even exist. You know what I
Well,
mean?
oh, and the things they do, and I don't think most people realize it. They
Yeah.
they bring their children up in libraries, and they go in with them when they're choosing books, and they're there for them. What the hell do we need all those stupid book banning people for?
I
Would you
know.
please? And another thing, I just want you to say, I want to say, never mind. I just let somebody else talk. But
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
so much for your book
Thank
and
you, Sally. I loved it. Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Gloria, I'll get to you, but Andy had her hand raised. Andy, if you want to unmute and go ahead, please.
I just want to tell you that I loved your book so much.
Oh,
It's so perfect for what's going on in the world and in our town right now. The characters were great. Um, I've read 22 books this year, and it's the only one that I rated at all on Storygraph, the tracking
thank
app I
you.
use, with 5 stars. And there's a line in it that I've been telling everybody. I don't know why it struck me like how it did, but you wrote, when you have everything, the only luxury left is taking things away from others. And that just hit me so hard because it's so true and
Because
so
it's
sad.
happening now.
It's exactly what's happening now.
Yeah.
And it it did give me hope that we can prevail over the hate and the ignorance and the fear and all of the bad things. So
I
just
have,
thank you.
oh, you're welcome. And I will tell you. So So I have people ask me all the time, what is like, so you went from this book about witchy women and violent, all this sort of stuff, and then you went to Lula Dean, and like, what's the common denominator? And I always say it is women doing what they know is the right thing and kicking butt and taking names. And like, I honestly think that we're the ones who have to save the world,
Yeah.
and it's our time to sort of stand up, realize the kind of power that we have, which we are the most powerful generation of women, in the history of the world, and just sort of stepping forward and doing what needs to be done. So, it's really lovely to hear all the people in your town telling me about like all, the sort of efforts that have been taken to fight book banning. And I mean, this is, yes, I see hope in you guys, because that's exactly what I'm looking for in the world, is a bunch of people rallying around a library and fighting the good fight.
Yeah. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Gloria, I know you have not raised the hand, but you are actually raising the hand. Do you want to? Yeah, go ahead. And then I'll come to you once Gloria's done. Yeah, go ahead, Gloria.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the book very, very much. And as I was reading it, I kept saying, I read that book, and I read that book, and I read that book. So when I completed the book, I really recommend it to my daughter, who we are reading pals. And
Oh,
she
good.
tells me what books to read. And I told her, you have to read this book, Sarah. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, because that's like the word of mouth is. I was in advertising for a long time, because that's how I paid my bills. And the one thing you could never pay for is word of mouth. Like, people just liking something and passing it along. I mean, that is so, thank you. You've done a lot for me as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gloria. Tatum, go ahead if you want to unmute.
Hi, yeah. First of all, congrats on getting your own book design on your book cover. That's
Yeah, right.
impressive.
Do you
Um,
know the book world? It's like a never. It's a yeah.
yeah, I work in graphic design, and I just know that's not how that works.
No, it is not.
Yeah, it's beautiful as well. But
Okay.
I just was wondering, I've been doing a chaotic thing where I compiled a bunch of banned book lists, right? Because there's not one big one, and I have a
Yep.
Excel spreadsheet that's like 4,000 entries long. It's a choice I've made. But I was wondering if there's any books that you've come across on banned book lists where you're like, why did this happen? Or there's obvious what where I go through the list and I go, okay, Mein Kampf was banned somewhere. I get it. I get it. It makes sense. But then I
Oh,
turn
I
around and
get
it's
it. I
like
get it.
the Rosa Parks book was banned. And I'm like, well, that's a choice.
Yes.
So I was wondering if there's any specific that you
Oh,
like
there's so
stick out
many.
to you. Yeah.
There's so many. So Speak, which is, I think I mentioned earlier, by Laurie Halse Anderson, which is a book for young people about rape.
Mhm.
That to me which has been banned in multiple places for as being sort of pornography,
Yeah.
because it speaks very frankly about the issue, which is probably exactly what a lot of young women need from a book. Especially in places like, in the South, where we don't, we talk around, serious topics. We sometimes don't confront them head on. So a frank discussion about something like rape is often something that, readers need to have. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I can't, there's so many, banned books where you shake your head and you wonder, did anybody, and the answer is no, nobody did actually bother to read it. That's the whole point. So I mean, there was another one in specific that I had in mind, and I can't think of what it is, but like, um the look, I mean, Mouse is the other
Oh,
one really, really bothers me. I mean, they all bother me, but that one is, it's just sort of, there's one picture of a nude woman who also happens to be dead in a graphic novel about the Holocaust. And, this is an important story that's told in a format that is accessible to a very wide audience. And it's about a subject that needs to be discussed, and people are banning it because of, a picture. Although I sincerely doubt it's just because of that picture. So, that's one of the other one. And the Diary of Anne Frank. I mean, for God's sake,
Come on.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just you can see, I mean, it's I think that there are, so in Lula Dean, you have Lula who's, basically just kind of a, she's evil in her own special way, but she she's looking for attention. This is her opportunity to kind of have all eyes on her. But there's Nathan Dugan sort of lurking in the background, who's sort of using her as a means of kind of pushing his very, very dark agenda. And I do think that that's happening as well. I think there are a lot of people out there who are
Lots of messages,
banning
ma'am.
books because,
What's up?
it's just, it helps them sort of, kind of get the attention that they desire. But there are some really nefarious types in the background who are pushing, are trying to get rid of books about everything from Black history to the Holocaust because they're things that they don't want the rest of us knowing about.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tatum. Gretchen is next. Go ahead, Gretchen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gretchen Kelly. I grew up in Suffield, but I am a high school social worker in West Hartford. And my librarian found me on the second day of school and knew that my mom is a very strong supporter of banned books and has given me a lot of paraphernalia. And she said to me, I have a book that I read over the summer that your mom has to read, and it was your book. So not only is your book reaching young people, but it's also reaching their teachers' moms who is a retired teacher. And so I will say your book was my favorite book of 2024, and it is so important. And just thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I've been surprised, like it's been sort of picked up by high schools to the
Yeah.
extent that
It's on our reading list, which hasn't been released, but I could get your contact and send it to you, but it's on our reading list for high school for next summer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm Kirsten Miller Books
Okay.
at email. That's my contact. So, I'm easy to find. That's fantastic. I'm actually going in to speak to my daughter. I have a 16-year-old daughter, so I'm going in to speak to her high school next week, which I'm a little like, I really don't want to embarrass her too badly.
They're embarrassed at baseline, so it's fine.
Yeah, she was like, there are pictures of you in the hall.
Yes.
Like, sorry.
No. Well, thank you. And thank you to the librarians that put this on.
Yes.
Much
So-
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have somebody else in the crowd who would like to make any comments? No. Oh, okay. I guess not.
No, one of the things, I know it's me again.
Go
Am I-
ahead, Sally.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I just think what Kirsten said about women is that we are the future. We can make it happen. Right?
Yes, I really believe that.
I do too. And I think people like you, women like you, are just so precious. And we just need to march on and be loud and be proud.
I suspect that you're one of those women too, Sally.
Well, I mean, I'm at the age where I've been around, done things and gone around, and I'll tell you something right now. I love what's happening. I love it with what's happening with women.
Yeah,
It's what-
no, it's true. It's, we need to find our power and
Well,
use
I
it.
think we found our power. We just get people on our side is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Jen, if you want to unmute yourself and speak, please. I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I never know if my headset is working. Okay, so I'll second that quote that Andy Percy mentioned. I wrote it down, and I rarely do that. I used to do that a lot, but I rarely write things down from a book unless it's work related or self-help or something along those lines, which is a good segue to say I haven't read any fiction in a really, really long time. And when I saw this at the display at the library, I knew I had to read it because, again, it is certainly timely here in Suffield and everywhere. I guess this is just another example of a wonderful book that it's just so clear that we are full of shame. Like everyone wants to shame other people. They
Yeah.
want to be vulnerable, but it's scary. So just another, just what a great book to remind us that when we can read things that are familiar to us or that we've kind of set aside because they're difficult. And we can have that moment to think about all of the things, contemplate, and maybe feel familiar in those stories. And I wish in person we could be more vulnerable. We could have these hard conversations. We could talk about topics that should not really be taboo. And yet all of us find ourselves in those moments where it's difficult for one reason or another to have these conversations. Thank you for creating another venue for us to actually think these things, work through these things in our minds, and hopefully eventually share them with other humans because it is our humanity that we're dealing with. This isn't, you know what I mean? Like where it's not the purity and those sorts of things are fabricated, really.
Yeah.
And at last, I'll say kudos to the staff at the library, and you have the full support of our family. I've been bringing my kids and visiting myself for my oldest is a junior in high school now, and we have 5 kids in the household who've all utilize the library. And as they are now in their teen years, you know, it's one thing to go and read all of the wonderful books when you're a young child. And I just found a picture the other day of our twins petting a goat at the library when they were like they had to be 3. And but now as teens, when they visit the library, I hope that they feel comfortable and represented, and that has been the case, and I certainly wouldn't want that to stop. And it's just such a beautiful space for everyone in the community, and I really give everyone kudos for helping us all to keep it that way. So thank you.
Really wonderful.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Do we have anybody else? And if you want to unmute yourself.
All right, I did it, Pinky.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I loved the book. I'm the mom who the daughters brought home from school. And I thought it was so timely. The situation going on in our town right now is very personal to me. And it was almost like you lived in Suffield. And then as chapters would happen, I would be like, how did she know this was going to happen in the world in 2024? And because of this book, I am ordering a little library, and it's going to be on the sidewalk in our town. And I would love for people to slip books in with maybe a different cover. That's what I want. Good. And there will be banned books because I'm going to already buy a few of this and pop it in the little library.
That's awesome. I love that.
I loved it. It was a great book, and I recommend it to anybody who will listen to me. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne, and can't wait to visit your library.
Exactly.
So, all right. Do we have anybody else? I guess not. Okay, then I'm just gonna say my goodbyes, and I would thank you, Kristen. This was wonderful, and I so appreciate you giving your time to us and for this thoughtful and inspiring conversation. To all my people who attended, if tonight has sparked something in you, I hope you will leave here feeling even more committed to supporting stories that challenges, question, and connect us. So have a wonderful evening and keep reading the books they tell you not to.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kirsten, again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.